Are you supporting President Trump or former Vice President Biden?
Barstool doesn't do politics.
Yeah, Barstool doesn't do politics. Yeah, I have no idea.
Do you know anything about either one of them?
No.
You must know something about Donald Trump.
I mean, I know who he is, yeah. I've seen him on TV
You're
a couple
aware of
times.
who you
Yeah, I've seen him.
You know who the vice president is?
No.
You don't know who the vice president. Something about this chair.
Come on.
You know who the vice president is.
Of the United States.
Yes. Don't be an asshole. Who's the vice president?
The Vice President of the United States.
His first name's Mike.
Oh,
Don't say Peggy LaRullo.
I know who that guy is. What's the letter begin with?
Creighton. It's Mike
P.
No, it's
Creighton.
not.
P.
Oh, Pence, yeah.
What?
All right, so this is the rundown. It is September 18th, Friday the 18th. We are in our second week without Mike, and tonight we are within our first show without Ziggy in a long time. So we got VD, we got Sheldon sitting in for Ziggy. Ziggy is not with us tonight. The news of Ruth Bader Ginsburg hit him pretty hard. So I think that liberal cuck is crying himself to sleep right now. So we brought in a real man, a real Republican. Sheldon, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good. It's good to have a real man in here, somebody we can see, not some marble mouth moron like that dumb doggo. So appreciate having you here, man. So we'll get right into it with the Barstool week that we had on the Kirk Minahan show. We had Big Cat. We had Carrabis. Kirk even did a little stint with Brendan Walker on his show. It was an awesome week. I love having these guys come in. And even though we didn't have Mike, they really filled that massive void that Mike can leave sometimes. But just your initial thoughts from the week, VD, what were you thinking this week?
Yeah, it was cool. A lot of Barstool involvement, not really out of nowhere. It kind of makes sense, but I feel like the relationship flares up in a positive way every now and then, and we get some good crossover, which I always enjoy because that's how I learned about the show. And it is just funny anytime the Miniverse is like interacting with the Barstool world. There's always some good stuff that comes out of it. I enjoyed Big Cat's call. He's always good. You know what you're going to get with Big Cat. He plays along. He's in on the joke. He's an ally. Love Big Cat on there. Having said that, I think the guest of the week has to be Carrabis. It was pretty polarizing.
I didn't think you'd say that. Wow.
I like Carrabis because he's an old Barstool guy, so he's in on the joke. He knows how to play around. And we even heard Kirk talk about it on Friday, just about how like unapologetic he is about being himself, which is interesting, because it's a good skill to have, but it's also baffling. Like him just openly admitting that his mom still cleans his apartment. Like if you peel the layers back on Carrabis, you're going to find some pretty weird stuff. So I would love getting him in there, once a month or whenever it makes sense, really. He's in the area. I did see a lot of people, like including you, Red, calling for Carrabis, or I should say predicting that Carrabis will be replacing Mike on the show.
Yeah,
which
that's
is such
my hot take.
It's a boneheaded take. I'll let you fill the people in.
Well, before we get there, I don't want you to sit there and just say that it's a boneheaded take, because it's a great take.
It's a bonehead.
It's a poignant take, and I'm a subtle genius in that take. But Sheldon, you are a baseball guy. I think you're a Carrabis fan. Did you like the Carrabis experience, the Carrabis show?
I really like Carrabis. I fucking hate the Rocket. So if he would have came and did his Rocket shtick the whole time, I would have been fucking aggravated because he's fucking terrible, and he wants everyone to hate him. And trust me, I hate him. So
but you can give him shit, man. I love that. You can give him shit.
It's so fucking annoying.
It's a good point you made though, Sheldon. The Rocket, like I just don't think that stuff would fly with Kirk. And it is fun when the Rocket comes out. He gets a little bit of that arrogant trait you try to cast upon Big Steve Red, like that kind of real defensive arrogantness. But I'm glad he came in as Jared.
Yeah, he came in as Jared, and then Kirk even told him that he fucking hates that. He hates the Rocket too. He's like, oh yeah, because I was in on radio and you were doing that shtick, and It sucks. I fucking hate it. Unless it's a Yankees fan, then it's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought he was really good. He's really good at playing along. And I mean, Kirk just gives him shit the whole time, and it either doesn't comprehend it or just bounces off him because he just keeps moving. He just keeps moving. It doesn't phase him or nothing.
Well, when you listen to it, it's one thing. When you see the video clips of it too, like he's just sitting there, like his hands in his pockets, and he's just like brushing it off. He's like, "Yeah, I don't know who the vice president is. I don't care. Like, I don't. What do you? I don't care." And then he's just like, "Oh, I didn't see that about David Ortiz." Like he's just going along with it. Like he's kind of bulletproof a little bit, but yet he lets he's kind of that dummy that Kirk can beat up too, and so he just lets it slide off his back. I loved it. And to go into my hot take or whatever you want to call it, like it makes total sense. Carrabis
I called it a bonehead take. No.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
He's going to be living in Boston. So he does 2 baseball podcasts. One of them is presented by Coors Light. That's the Section 10, I believe. So the starting 9 one isn't that big a deal. It's a couple times a week. Just get rid of that. He doesn't have to do CCK anymore. He's living in Boston, so he'll do a little bit in New York, a little bit in Boston. A couple times a week he's in with KMS. Other than that, you get the Kirk and Steve show, which is great. I love the Kirk and Steve show. So bye-bye Blind Mike. And just go take care of yourself, man. I hope all is well. Take care. Hope all is well, but we don't need you around, man. It's okay. Like, we got Carrabis now. We're good. He's going to come in for another week. Him and Kirk got chemistry. I think Carrabis could be a great foil for Steve Robinson. They're not going to get along. There's a lot of Massachusetts versus Maine shit there that I think could come out. I'm a big Carrabis guy, man. I love him. So I'm sorry, Mike.
No, my rebuttal will be not that Carrabis, like, he's clearly a great fit and it would be interesting. But it just doesn't make any sense. Like, he's a baseball guy. He's only interested in baseball.
He's not just a baseball guy.
Kirk also is getting rid of CCK. Okay, that gets rid of 1 hour a day. They don't do any prep for that show. Like, coming in a couple times to the Kirk show, like, you'd have to do prep and he would have to listen.
Hold on. Can I stop you right there and I'll let you continue?
Yeah.
Coming in for the Kirk show. Yeah, coming in for the Kirk show, you'd have to do prep. That's interesting. Yeah, you would have to do prep, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
He would have to do prep in the sense that he would have to listen to the show every day, which he doesn't do now because he watches baseball all day. And
but he would. He would if he had to. He would. There's nobody that works harder than Kirk Minahan, and then there's nobody that could come in and work a little less harder than Carrabis. Like he watches every baseball game.
Is that you're saying that like that's a common saying? I've never heard. That's not a like.
No, I just made it up. It doesn't matter. But that is the truth.
Confidence.
Carrabis works hard. Okay, Mike doesn't. Carrabis is prepared. Mike is not. Carrabis can take the joke. Mike really can't. He gets very sensitive. Like, this is a no-brainer. I don't understand. This isn't even a hot take. This is like cold take. This is easy.
Do you think he wants to talk about like politics in any sense? Do you think he definitely like?
Does Mike want to talk about politics?
He wants to he unfortunately sometimes.
This is the thing.
Fuck, he didn't even know how many judges there were on the Supreme Court.
But like, the Rocket, from his interest of doing the show, like, he's a baseball guy. He'll come on whenever Kirk asks him, which is great. But to say
Mike's a comedy guy, stand-up comedy guy, he doesn't really.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You think Carrabis would want to just cancel his other? You're saying get rid of one of his baseball shows?
Yeah, just get rid of the one that doesn't have the Coors Light as a presented sponsor.
Do you follow him on Twitter? He only tweets about he's only interested about baseball. He says that right up front. Like,
only tweets about stand-up comedy. VD again. I can go point for counterpoint here.
The show. Mike is interested in the show.
Mike doesn't know anything about the metaverse. It's
very cold-blooded of you to just like cast Mike aside while he's on a mental health hiatus at blind camp, learning how to toast bread. I'm sure he's putting in good work on himself right now.
I'm sure he is.
He's definitely not doing nothing. I'm
not saying that.
It was a little concerning to get that response to when Steve texted him on Friday. I don't know
I didn't like that today.
Yeah, I didn't like the sound of that.
I was like, I hope he's in a bad spot to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
And then they're like, when it came back that wasn't it, I was like, oh shit. So it makes me think that he is listening to the show.
Right.
But are his feelings getting hurt now about it? That they're joking that they don't miss him? It's just like, oh shit. So we won't have that update now until Monday. So this could all be thrown out by the time everyone fucking hears this.
True.
Yeah. I just think, if I can, it's the soft bigotry of low expectations that gearheads like VD and Ziggy especially have for Mike Geary. I think he's treated with kid gloves by some of the fans. He's a very nice guy. He's a really nice guy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I have a little bit higher expectations for him, and I want to hold him accountable. And he doesn't even come prepared for his YouTube shows. So maybe he could come in every once in a while when Carrabis isn't there. Kirk said that there's plenty of opportunity for him also to clean up the studio. I'm not saying Mike will be jobless. I'm just saying, he's going to have a different role. He can fill in.
I do think Mike not being on every day might be like even a good thing for him. Like if he was coming in,
I agree with
maybe twice a week or something. Like I think he would be a little bit hungrier. It would allow him kind of, time to work on whatever else he wants to work on. And there would be that less expectation if he's just like a rotating kind of in and out guy. So I do agree with that. And the logical part of my brain agrees a lot with what you're saying about Mike's shortcomings. But there is an emotional side of my brain where it's like I do genuinely feel bad for Mike. Like his role is kind of to be that punching bag. And that's why even saying replacing Mike with Carrabis is dumb, because Carrabis is a punching bag in the sense that he can take shit and sit there, but he's not going to fight back. Like Sheldon said, like you can't tell if can comprehend the English language or if he's just sitting there like dreaming of like David Ortiz hitting home runs. The good thing about a punching bag is that eventually they walk out of the studio or they cry on air. Like you're not going to get any of that excitement from Carrabis, and Kirk has made it clear that that third seat is for a punching bag.
Which you would think he would get mad for, as much as Kirk hates the Red Sox and he badmouths them. It doesn't even phase Carrabis.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't do nothing.
And like you can shit on baseball all you want, and he's like, I don't care. I like it. He's not like trying to die on the hill defending anything. He's dying on no hills other than baseball takes.
The point of it is
that
Carrabis came in and he did just as well as Mike did. Yeah. Because they both prepared the same amount, 0. And we both had we had huge shows with Carrabis, and Mike's had some good shows. And the dynamic's a little bit different. So he was a punching bag, but it didn't really phase him at all, where Mike would kind of shut down. We all heard that last phone call from Steve from Providence.
Yeah.
Mike was fucking done. He was out of it. Now, someone called in and told Carrabis it was a stupid fucking call when he's like, oh, I just saw one of Jared's baseball cards. Yeah, it's fucking stupid. And Jared's just like, oh, why is it stupid? Yeah. But the guy's like, well, I guess it's pretty cool. And it's like, well, what's happening here? He said it was fucking stupid. And like most people would have been like, well, fuck you, guy. And Jared's like, why is it stupid? I like it.
There is a sense where Mike is a kind of easy guy to hate, whereas Carrabis, to me, from my perspective, like the way he handles everything, it's hard to like go at someone who just doesn't care. It's hard to hate him really with that much passion.
Yeah, I will say though, we're only judging him on this show, and I'm a pretty loyal listener. I don't know why of CCK. I used to like to call in there all the time too.
Because you don't listen to Kirk's show.
Give Clancy shit. No, that's not true. How dare you? When people would call in there and they would give him shit, sometimes you can get under his skin with stuff. It depends on when you hit him and when you get him. I think he would be great for the show.
We all agree there.
Okay. So I'm just saying, again, Mike, it's been great. Take care. Hope all is well. Okay, that's it. I mean, it is, again, he can come in anytime he wants and clean the floors. But I do hope that whatever happened today after the show, I hope it wasn't serious. I do hope that Mike is taking the time away too. So
I hope he's actually fixing himself, not for just his eyes, which he's known are going bad. I hope he's fixing his fucking head, because he obviously isn't in the right state of mind. Right. And that's way more important than his fucking eyesight, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
True.
But she said he just wants you to know that he did have his blinker on. I was like, I don't care. I'm saying this guy is 80 years. I'm saying minimum 80 years old. Okay, he's got his little wife in the passenger seat next to him, who isn't even look completely nonplussed. She didn't even care. There could have been a terrorist attack. Should have been sitting there. There are cars, and I'm the idiot. There are cars zooming by us on the highway. I don't know, as far away as Mike's seat is for me. And I'm saying to this guy, see those two cars right there? They're next to each other. If that car puts its blinker on and rams in the other car, and I said to this guy, who gives a shit? And this guy's like, I have my blinker on. I'm like, who gives a shit? We're screaming at each other on 95. Two idiots, like solving nothing.
Did he drop any references?
I don't think he was a fan.
All right, so anytime we do this show and it's for the week, there's so much that goes into these shows, 2-hour shows, 3-hour shows, that we have to do random notes. The random notes is my favorite part, just because there's so much in here. And a lot of my random notes usually have to do with Steve, but there's a couple of good ones. One of mine that I came up with, the missed opportunity during the phone call to Justin about the rental car. They cut off the call right before they got to Justin's voicemail message. So we didn't get the hi, this is Justin, the little kid voice. I love that.
From when he's like 10 years old.
Oh, yeah, when he's 10 years old. Yeah, that's the best one. And then this one is for Ziggy Robinson, because I know he probably is a big fan of this, but Al Robinson, that wedding this weekend, Al is 22 and he's getting married. And it sounds like under certain circumstances that this feels like a shotgun wedding that Steve's going to. He's very cagey about this. This feels like a shotgun wedding. I think Al knocked up this woman, and maybe they're talking about it or they're not talking about it. This is a very shady situation. I don't know if you guys caught it. Am I looking too deep into this? Because I feel like there's something going on here with Al. No?
Al Robinson's not a real person.
You don't think he's real at all? Is there a wedding?
No. Well,
is there not a wedding he's going to?
Well, something did happen tonight, and he needs a week to hide everything.
Oh.
I mean, that's just hypothetical.
Oh, so, no.
So
Steve Robinson killed Ruth?
I did not say that. I disavow.
Disavow. Yeah.
We're going to shut down this YouTube show right now. This is done.
I don't know if he killed her, but he may be tied into some right-wing conspiracy, some of his old guys from DC, where he knew it was coming, so he's taking the week off so he can celebrate.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say, I hope that Steve, whatever wedding he may or may not be going to, my only hope is, because the Robinsons have a shady history of marriages and fulfilling and getting it, to the end. I hope that everything works out well with Al, is what I'll say, and I'll leave it at that. I won't get into too many details. But there were a couple of notes that I had from the week. Sheldon, else were some random notes that you had?
I'm so tired of shit talk. Please
Yeah.
stop calling into the show and talking about shitting and your wiping.
And how to wipe.
We already did fucking a full week of this, and then a second week with a lot of it. I don't need a third fucking week. I don't need it. I mean, they should be flush, aborted, vacuumed every fucking time it comes up.
Yeah.
And the guy that called in and was like, hey, I'm the guy who started it. I wanted to reach through the phone and fucking strangle him. I mean, enough already. Yeah, I get it. A lot of calls are boring. I don't need shit talk. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he wanted credit. He said he did more than Mike has ever done, which may or may not be true, but it's like, come on, man.
It was a good line.
Yeah, that was good. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm done with shit talk. I had a couple of things with Steve this week. I think I have the exact opposite of Ziggy's. Ziggy says he has Steve derangement syndrome. I'm fascinated with everything he says. A lot of times on the second listen to the show, I'll catch things that Steve says in the backgrounds that far too often they just get passed over. Like we had Big Steve saying in regards to Fred Toucher going to rehab that he had to go out and get lit first. So I didn't think I'd ever hear Big Steve say lit. We also had him, or I should say we had Marty Mush not knowing what a parlay was.
Yes.
And fully expected Steve to just come in there with like the historical accurate definition of what a parlay is from like medieval times, and just
bet more.
The gambling. Yeah. So that's just his disconnect with the world whenever it comes out, and we get to see like the weird places where he's just very lacking in knowledge. I'm always very interested in those. And finally, we also got him saying in regards to Kirk's allergies that the trees were trying to fuck his face.
Yes.
So he just slips in those little one-liners every now and then that I can't ignore. And just when you think of the context of it coming from him, they just make me laugh.
When Kirk does that, and then he's like, yeah, Steve, they were trying to fuck my face. Like he even said, he just repeats it back to him. Like, I can't believe you just
Jesus
said that.
Christ.
He was so good. I love that too. And for Steve, I think today's was side chick. He said side chick, I think,
what the fuck was it?
4 times within the span of 2 minutes. He just kept saying side chick over and over again. It was great. He's like, it was like he stumbled onto. All of a sudden, like he stumbled onto this
buzzwords. He gets buzzwords that he likes to hammer.
It's like his computer just gets stuck on it in his brain.
Right.
It's like side chick.
So I have a few Steve Robinson things as well. I like to track things that Steve is doing. I don't have full Steve derangement syndrome like Ziggy does. Although I think Ziggy, if this is a hot take, I don't know, but Ziggy is a big Steve Robinson fan. He is not a Steve Robinson hater. The fact that he has that in his bio, he needs to change that in his Twitter bio because he loves Steve Robinson, loves him. Yeah. So he needs to stop doing that. It's offensive to the warden, really.
Yeah, ask the warden. He'll tell
the
you.
Warden knows. So Ziggy is a total fraud on that, by the way. But I do have some facts on Steve Robinson that he brought up. Steve Robinson, the sports take expert, he said on Monday. Kirk asked him about football that was on Sunday, and he watched the Patriots game, and his response was that Pats looked good. Pats looked good.
That's good.
You didn't fucking watch any of it. Just admit it. You didn't watch any of it.
He was cooking during the show, but he said Pats looked good. That was his response. That was it, and Kirk left it at that, which was perfect.
Such a fucking liar.
When Steve was calling up the cancer patient, and then later on he was talking about what she was doing, he said all she's got to do is watch soaps today. Which I thought was great that was Steve's impression of what women are doing now with their time, especially when they're, trying to overcome cancer treatment overcome cancer and go through cancer treatment is just watching soaps all day.
Watching the soaps,
Just watching the soaps. Emailing the White House once a month is never, ever going to get Trump on the show. The once a month email is never. Can you please defend that, VD?
Yeah, I'll rebuttal that. You don't want to be the Andy Mayo that calls in every day, or you don't want to be the one spamming someone. There's a gentle balance. He's got his connects in the White House, and Robinson knows how to move with the game.
He's literally just going whitehouse@hotmail.com. That's all he's doing, basically. Once a fucking month. That ain't nothing.
He's just copying and pasting. I love
the tentacles of the Pucinian society. They reach all the way to the White House, so he's definitely got some ties.
Yeah. Okay. So then Steve played the Chris Russo audio for the Chris Russo channel, but he had no idea who the host was at all. So that was not helpful at all to what Kirk was trying to achieve there. Nope. So that was a great job by Steve. And then this was my favorite moment, and this is what I called in for to talk about Tom Brady. And was cut off when I was just getting to the comedic magic that I had. Steve didn't misspell Dak Prescott's name. He actually thought that Dak Prescott's name was Zach Prescott. He did. No. He didn't misspell it. He thought that's what his name was. He could say whatever he wants to say. Because then he went back to it the following day and then just called him Zach Prescott again.
I think he slipped that in there for you. When he said that, I thought he was aware. I thought it was
okay,
but you never know. You never know. It's not a lie then.
No, yeah, that's true. Again, these are not necessarily lies. I'm just saying they're fact checking. That's all that I'm doing. And
it's not a lie.
Yeah, it's not a lie. And Sheldon, you actually work for a living. I'm sure you probably have some comfortable boots that you need to wear. If you're wearing boots, do you call them Timberlands?
No, I don't.
Is there a D on the end of Timberland?
No, I call them Timberlands. Timberlands. No, they're Timberlands.
Are you living off the land, VD? Or is that what you're doing?
That was tough. But
because it's not a fucking saying.
Slips are what make him such a content machine. Like he's such a good content guy that even accidentally, like unintentionally, he makes great content. So he can do it in all facets. He can do it in all facets.
Living off the land.
It's your oh, Jesus Christ. You're
Look,
on
him
the
and Dave
land.
Portnoy are both famous for their mispronunciations of words. They're, forgetting names, mixing up.
Except Dave Portnoy doesn't pretend to be all smart. He knows he's a dummy. He doesn't play it up. He's well aware.
Fair point. Fair point. Either way, I love it. Either way, I love it from Steve.
And if Steve could actually call back the cancer patient, that would have been nice. Kirk asked him to do that. Steve didn't do that.
He asked him to do it multiple times.
Yes.
Okay, when they hung up with that phone call, like that was a tough phone call. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
And he was laughing right away, and Kirk was kind of laughing, as in like, what the fuck just happened here?
Which was a great moment, by the way.
Kirk was really nice about it.
All time.
And I mean, I felt so bad for that lady.
When she said she was actually dying, and he was like, Kirk just kept going with it. He easily could have got awkward and just hung up the phone.
Yeah, I think every listener had that moment of panic where they're like, "Oh shit!" Like I kind of feel like a dick. What am I gonna do? And then he just kind of, very swiftly and elegantly kind of moves it into like this pretty interesting conversation. Definitely one of the coolest calls like the show has ever had. And
it was all time.
They were just dialing his old number, like just weird stuff like that happening is great.
All-time moment. But I just wish Steve would have called her back as Kirk has asked.
He told him to call her back multiple times, and he said something else like a real cunt in that when he's like, "Oh, well, maybe we could send her some Newports." Go fuck yourself. I mean, seriously. The lady just said she had 6 months to live and she was dying. He's like, "Well, I guess we could send her some Newports." Don't be such a fucking dick.
That's the inner Russian/robot aspect of Steve, where every now and then, when you least expect it, like he's incredibly emotionally detached from things. Like even when Mike was saying his grandma had cancer, like his instant response was like, "Well, I think we've all been touched by cancer, And he's like, "What? This lady, she said she lived a good life, like whatever, And she's like, Kirk's like, "Oh, but she's 60," and he's like, "She said she lived a good life. I don't know what to tell you." So there are those moments where things get very like binary, black and white for Steve.
Well, I mean, we all respond differently in situations like that. I mean, you can shut down and it can be awkward, but like just the stupid comment when he's like, "Well, we could send her some Newports." I mean, who the fuck says that? Seriously. That was such a dick thing to say.
That's Steve trying to do his best little Kirk imitation. We all swing and we miss.
Kirk wasn't even like that.
I know, but he's trying to be edgy. He's trying to be edgy and joke around with the boys. It was locker room talk.
Steve has no chill. Like there's no chill. Like Kirk at least has some tact. Steve, he does not. Like you heard it today with Mayo too, and we'll get into that later on. Like Steve lacks the ability to like have any tact at all in those situations. He just goes ham, man. He goes into it.
All gas, no brakes.
He's all gas, no brakes. He really is.
I'll have to give him for being a liar, though. When the next day, when Kirk asked him if he called, he's like, no. He didn't try and lie. Like, well, I tried. She didn't answer. He flat out said no. He's like, it sounded like she didn't want anyone to call her back.
Sheldon, that's a fantastic point. That's a really great point. If you're a liar, you're going to lie there. That's the scenario you lie in. So.
Well, I mean, so he didn't lie about that. I'll give him that, but it's still a dick thing to do.
And I think probably it's safe to say probably last year that would have been another lie for Steve, and this one he didn't lie about. So we'll give him some credit for that. There, that's fine. There we go.
He never lied.
We did that. Okay, yeah. So we'll get into now. We're just going to move seamlessly into the week ahead because the week ahead now is without Steve, which for a lot of us this is going to be tough. Because it means no Steve means Carano. So this is the Carano week, and I know many have issues with Carano. I don't know how Kirk is going to pull this off and make Carano interesting and make him playful and going along with the joke and being in on the joke. It's something I don't think Carano can really do. The only thing I'm looking forward to is being able to call in a couple times this week and just tell him he's a dead man. I think that'll be funny. I'm looking forward to that. Do you have any predictions for the week ahead, VD, when it comes to the Kirk Minahan show?
Yeah, it's hard to predict how it's going to go, just because there's a lot of who knows. But one thing is for sure is like Kirk. He brings the best out of uncomfortable situations. So True. I'm imagining with the calls next week there will be a couple of those with Carano, and Kirk is so good at sitting back and kind of just like tactfully like poking people. I could imagine a caller calling in and giving Carrano some shit, and then Kirk kind of siding with them and be like, yeah, well, why did you block 400 people, out of nowhere one day? It's kind of sensitive. And, it's very possible he's going to buckle under that pressure, especially if he's in there a whole week. But like Kirk said earlier in the week, he said, I think to Big Cat, that he milks the talent out of Big Steve. I'm excited for him to milk some talent out of Carrano next week.
Oh, good luck. I don't know if that's possible, Sheldon. I don't know.
I remember when Carrano came in the first time, and it wasn't that bad. And the thing about it is, like, he thought him and Kirk were going to be friends right away, and, and he was talking the whole time. And Kirk's like, "Well, what the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah,
I'm just like, no. And I found it entertaining. He liked to talk a lot, but the only thing is, there's a lot that has happened since then in this world, and there wasn't phone calls then.
Yeah.
So now I'm really curious to see what the phone calls are going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Sneakers going to call in? I wonder if Sneakers is going to call. I think he's probably going to call in.
He's usually a man of his word,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, they could be interesting unless then again, who knows? He could have everyone's fucking number. Like,
I don't think Kirk will let him just block people from calling in.
But he would never know. He could leave him on hold. I've been on hold for fucking over an hour already and never got let on.
Yeah, but
it's a good thing to keep your eye on, Kirk.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is Kirk is really good about checking Twitter, and those have seen the success of Ziggy either tweeting him while he's on hold or other guys calling in while other guys are on hold. So they're seeing that. So it's like kind of a team effort. Like, this whole thing is moving. I know, some may think that you shouldn't be calling into the Kirk Manahan show. You should be working that entire time, and you can't take a break to, make a phone call. Some people have that, opinion on things, but people are usually working together in this. I know I try and usually schedule my break around that time where I know I'm going to be calling in. If I'm calling in or I'm seeing other people are calling in, I'm getting DMs about that. So the Metafans do a good job of collaborating on that. So if Carrano's blocking somebody from the phone call, I think we're going to know about it too. So that'll be good. I know I'll be calling in a few times. I got a few numbers. Hopefully, I'll probably get blocked maybe a couple times by Carrano. That's okay. I'll just tweet at Kirk because Kirk's following me now. So I'll just tweet at him. I'll let him know. It'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great.
We're talking to royalty here.
Yeah, it's true. I'm a made man now, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Great.
People are falling off the Mount Rushmore. You're still up there, though.
Yeah, give it time. Is Mike going to be back this week? Do we have a good feeling? I know there was the phone call or the text today, but
I honestly thought Mike would be in this week, but then that phone call today makes me think no.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
And depending on how that phone call went, if Kirk doesn't think he's in the right headspace, he fucking won't let him come back anyway.
Yeah,
he flat out said that before. And the way Steve made it sound, now who knows? Because Steve makes shit sound way different than it is sometimes. But
allegedly,
allegedly. But if it sounded like Steve said, I don't think he'll be back.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Part of me doesn't want Mike to come back purely because you can tell Kirk is just not excited about being one-on-one in the studio with Carrano. Today was the first time it really started to register with him, and I think on Monday it's I can't wait for the first minute of the podcast on Monday. It's just to be like, I walked in here and you're fucking sitting there. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
The Mike's gonna come on Mondays and be like, oh fuck, you're here.
Yeah.
Do you think that Kirk wanted to call Mike to hopefully get him in for next week, knowing that he was just going to have Carrano?
There's a chance that deep down he was just starting to realize.
I had that feeling.
What can I do?
Right.
Well, otherwise he didn't want to call him, leave him alone. But then today he's like, call him up.
Exactly.
Please.
It's just like, oh fuck.
I all I know is that it seems like as much as Kirk has talked about his mental health issues, and it's not an easy thing to deal with, and there was a lot going on there. It just seems like Mike has so much unresolved and so much stuff that he hasn't worked on, and so many things that I hope that Mike's not coming back, not just because I love Carrabis, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff to work on with Mike, man. He needs to take that time. So I hope that he can. And it seems like from that talk today that he's not coming back in next week, which I mean, we're going to have Portnoy, I think, probably, hopefully on a working phone. We'll be able to get a call in. Big Cat, Carrabis in studio with Carano there will be interesting. I don't know. Carano's going to weird the shit out of Carrabis, too. I think that'll be funny. That'll be a funny dynamic.
I'd be surprised if they don't get KFC on yet, too.
Yeah.
They never sent. I don't think he mentioned that, but
He's kind of disappeared a little bit, huh?
Yeah, he hasn't been around. It sounds like they fucking text all the time though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
the last time there was a lot of KFC stuff, it was KFC was chirping Steve a lot when it came to cancel culture, and that was like about it. So
it's been a while.
It'd be good to have KFC in there. I'm loving and I say this all the time, but I love the Barstool stuff. I'm gonna be bumming if we get into a situation like this in a subscription service and you can't have the Barstool guys chime in and pop in like this. I don't know what you would do in that situation.
I like the Barstool stuff. I also miss the random guests. Like I just listened to the fucking OJ Lawyer one. That interview was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was such a fucking idiot.
So weird, right?
And I'm like, God, I just wish people would agree to come onto the goddamn show. I mean, I love the show the way it is, but I mean, everyone's too big of a pussy to even come on the show anymore.
Yeah, they can't do it. Like this show is so different, and they want to fight and they want to have these arguments, and nobody does that. Like I listen to plenty of other shows and follow along, and nobody ever does. You can't get people to go on and disagree with anything. Everybody just wants to go someplace and agree with everything they say. So,
well, and if you actually listen to the way he interviews, I mean, he is all over the fucking place, which I love because he'll take a fucking 90-degree turn in a second. And that's another thing with like Carrabis. He kept up the whole time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, the whole time. I mean, what the fuck were they talking about? Had him looking something up, and then Steve Hadley's like, I don't fucking care about that. And he just moved on, and Carrabis moved right along.
That's the greatness of Carrabis right there. I'm telling you, that rocket going right to the moon. I love it.
Not the rocket. I don't want the fucking rocket.
What about him like doxing himself on the podcast? Maybe that's just on like in Minifan related things where people need to be very careful about where they live. But it sounds like he very descriptively said where he lives.
Where he was going to be. Right.
Probably never a great idea.
And did you guys? So when Kirk mentioned the thing that struck me about what Kirk said with Carrabis and his mom and cleaning, obviously the cleaning thing is odd that she's going to be cleaning his place. But when Kirk said that it was oddly sexualized, I thought that was a really strange thing, really strange place to go for Kirk. Like I didn't take that in a sexual nature at all. That his mom is cleaning his apartment. I don't know. I don't know how you guys took
part of the joke. I think it's weirder that he pays her. Like to me, it's weird regardless, but it would be less weird if he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just a mama's boy, and I live near where I grew up, and my mom, she's just like a helicopter mom that likes to come and clean, But the fact that they just have like this weird, cash for labor transaction is what's weirder to me than if he wasn't paying her.
Right.
Well. Maybe Kirk took it there because he just missed his mic, and that's something you would do with someone who's sitting in that chair.
That's true. I just assumed that's what the porn genre that Kirk was into. You know what I mean? Like I figured that's what that was. When
I honestly,
he's on the record saying he's a storyline guy. Like he needs
that.
Plot.
Is true.
I figured he just looked at that chair and is just like, yeah, the guy who sits in that chair just fucks his mom.
Yeah, that's probably a good part of that. It's a great point.
I got no time for it, man. I'm just doing my show. I got no time for it.
It's just a weird look for
loyalty matters, or it doesn't matter. That's all.
It's just a weird look for him to blow up about this and spend 15 minutes talking on a show about it, and then admit that he didn't even listen.
Fucking
to
idiot.
It. So he doesn't have any of the right information. He can't get our tone or anything.
No, he's a fucking idiot. Listen to it today, fuckhead. Go ahead.
That they talked about they hate me.
True.
They say I suck on the show.
True.
They said I puffed out my chest.
I don't even know if I said that, but okay.
He said, Kirk, at what point don't I let him make money off of me? Steve also said they accused me of poaching his advertisers. Steve said I accused him of poaching advertisers. He did pick up Red Dogs after me. But he told me after the fact.
Hold on. I mean, this is the shit. I'm telling you, sentences like that make me fucking nuts. That's just me. It's this idea that the guy who has a show based on my show is going to get mad that we poached advertisers.
I've been a bad boy the last couple of weeks.
All right, so it's the after show. Typically when we do the after show, we do a lot of inside Miniverse stuff, and there was a lot of Miniverse stuff to go over this week. And the midweek stuff was DEC and the Minifan show and poaching advertisers, and it seemed DEC just came off the rails, and he's no longer seems to be pretty active on Twitter. He's taken the Ellie Schnitt route. I know I've had my issues with DEC in the past. I do hope that everything is well. I'm going to go high. Well, I know DEC has gone low in those circumstances. I'm going to go high and not talk about my personal issues. I will say that my biggest issue with DEC when it comes to the Miniverse is he was always that guy that would steal content. He would steal art from Gig and not give him credit, or the Warden. And also he would do that thing where he would copy guys' tweets that were lesser Minifans and then just use their tweets but never actually retweet them. Dude, just stupid shit like that I hated. That would just drive me nuts. But it was just a wild scene to listen to that Minifan show and then hear Kirk just rip him to pieces that next day. VD, you seem to I know you were somebody who told me to listen to the Minifan show because I wasn't going to do it, and it seemed nuts to listen to it when I heard it. What were you thinking?
Yeah, it was crazy because first of all, I have a couple issues with it. I'll start off with the one that's not really relevant. Is that it was supposed to be a show about the development about Big Steve, and there was maybe 5 minutes of Big Steve talk. So as a Rabba fan goat who was like tuning in to hear, the tale of a true underdog, talk about Steve's rise to glory, I was upset. Sure. They spent more time talking about Blind Mike. But what really caught me off guard was in the beginning, DEC kind of addressed is that he didn't listen to the show the day before where they gave him some shit. And he's doing a reaction show to that without listening. Right. He says someone sent him clips, but it's like, your show is literally a reaction show. How are you not going to listen and then do a show? And just, he's so quick to play the victim card. And like, look, I hope everything that's going on with him is doing okay. I've talked to him privately, but you can't just you can't be the guy that like goes after people in a way. And then as soon as someone comes after you, like even, someone as like intern Will or Phil, he has these people that just piss him off. Yeah. And just too quickly he goes to I've got this going on, that going on. Like I said, I hope everything is going well, but he just seems so quick to play that card. And it was just a bizarre Minifan show. It was all over the place.
Yeah. And I know that you've been pretty upfront about, issues that you've had in the past and going through in sobriety. And it always seemed to me, it always bothered me anytime I've had interactions with DEC, and he'd immediately apologize and then he'd bring up his sobriety and this is why I need to apologize. And it was constantly, it just felt a little woe is me because it was just constantly doing that. And then he immediately, a little time later, there'd be something else that he would do where he'd be trying to dance on the grave of John from Scranton or something else. It'd be the same thing over and over again. So he drives me nuts, man. But I do hope he's doing all right. Sheldon, you seem to be a big DEC fan. This must have hurt you. It must have really hurt you.
I oh my God. Okay. So like VD said, it is a reaction show. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they weren't even going to talk about what happened on the show that day because he was just going to talk to his two guests. And then he's like, well, I didn't want to talk about it, but we'll talk about it. I didn't listen to it. Someone sent me clips and told me it'd make me mad. You can't have a reaction based on someone sending you fucking clips. You actually have to listen to it. How can you have a reaction to something you didn't even hear fully?
Right.
So, I mean, if you actually listen to that episode and to the tone, I didn't even think Kirk was that mad. It was more just like him pretending to be mad. Yeah. And maybe he was irritated, but he wasn't mad. But the way DEC took it was like he basically told DEC to go fuck himself. Right. And all this and that. And then so DEC has this huge rant of something that he didn't even listen to the fucking show, and then he tells him to fuck off. Yeah. I mean, what the fuck are we doing here?
Right.
After listening to the show that set this thing off, like the Kirk show, if you had asked me like, oh, name 3 major things that happened in this show, like I would have forgot the DEC comments. They were very like he talked about it maybe like 1 or 2 minutes, and there was no like real like anger there as far as like what on Kirk's side. Maybe there is behind the scenes, but then DEC comes back over the top, and he, like you said, his tone made it seem like they buried him the whole show, and he's like, "Oh, I got killed," and it's just a weird move to do a reaction show without listening. I don't really have personal problems with DEC,
Right?
But it's just a bizarre move, and
I have nothing. I have no personal problems with him either. But if you're gonna fucking sit there and bury the show that you react to, you should listen to the fucking show,
right?
And not just take. Well, someone sent me clips.
Right.
Okay,
and
you can clip whatever the fuck you want and make it sound how you want to take it. You got to listen to the whole thing. I mean, Kirk made his snide comments about it, and I mean, he didn't seem that mad. And then DEC goes right from 0 to fucking 100. Fuck you.
Well, some of these guys, I wonder how they're fans of Kirk Minahan, because they do. Their instincts, and DC is one of them. His instincts are to go on somebody's show, whether it's Mincel Intel or he went on with Menners, and he's a total wet blanket. Like, he won't engage. He'll be purposely boring. He doesn't want the fight. He doesn't want to make it good radio, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just always amazed that he's a fan of Kirk Minahan, because it's such the opposite of what Kirk would do. And having somebody talk shit about you and not listen to the show is such the opposite thing of what Kirk would do, and not embrace that and enjoy it and then use that. Like, he easily could have taken the clips of what Kirk said and then react to him, because he's got the technology there, and react to him within the show. He could have done that whole thing. And instead, he just decided not to listen to it, have Chris from Wakefield send it to him, I think. And it was just such an odd move, man. I just didn't understand the whole thing, but it was a joy to listen to, because it was just somebody just completely breaking down. And you have Adam from Jersey just trying to like console him as this is going on. It was a thing of beauty to listen to. So I was glad I got it. And it was nuts.
Kirk wasn't mad the day before. Right. Then the next day he was mad.
He was very mad.
Oh, I mean,
and it was awesome.
I don't know what the fuck he wanted.
Well, it was great.
I don't know what he was trying to prove. I don't know.
Kirk got a little dose of that like high horse DEC that I think a lot of Mina fans will criticize him for. And it was there's a lot of grave dancing this week, just a ton of it.
Oh, well, we've been telling Kirk about this. So right again, red. I hate to be right. I'm a humble guy. I don't like to tell people when I'm right, but I just happen to be right again on this. So it is what it is. So I'm just, hope all is well for DEC, but we had Mayo today on Friday call into the show, and a little bit of back and forth. There's a lot of different things. I know we were going back and forth about whether we were going to talk about this, and I felt like we should talk about it. I don't think there's going to be many shows that might, I don't think there's many shows that are going to address it. My biggest thing was, for Mayo, I wish that he had called in and just kept it light. I think that was his plan, to just kind of make the joke about him blocking Kirk. And then it took off from there, and just Mayo just unloading all of his issues that he's had. I just wish that he would just scale it back, man. Just chill out a little bit. I think his messages would come across better if he would just take a little bit of chill in there. But I'll give props to Kirk for letting it go on as long as he did. Steve wanted to cut it early and abort him and get rid of him. You won't find another show that's going to be willing to listen to a fan bitch about the other fans on their show, on their podcast. You won't find that anywhere, just like you won't find Kirk calling a cancer patient. You won't get that on any other show too. So I got to give props to Kirk for doing it. I wish Mayo had handled it better, and I wish John Fetherston had handled it better on Twitter later on. Just because Mayo's getting into an argument with Kirk doesn't mean you got to go out there and throw out, wherever he's working and this and that. It bothers me when I see these Minifans doing that and treating people that way and taking tactics that a Brian Riccio would do or a Bob Murchison. It pisses me off, man. But everything with the show, I thought it was pretty good today. I just wish Mayo had handled it a little bit better. But.
Yeah, he's such an idiot. I don't hate Mayo, but as soon as he got reinstated, there were a couple people reinstated to the world this week.
Right.
I think privately people were probably gambling on like, all right, who's going to blow it first? And I think the front runner probably would have been Kelleher, but Mayo.
It wasn't me. I wasn't the front runner.
Oh. No, not from me. Maybe for a lot of other people.
Oh, good.
But like, I do know like Mayo is a fan of the show. Like, I think he is able to like understand a lot of the humor of the show, but he's just addicted to being the contrarian, and it's so frustrating because like at some point those people need to realize that being the contrarian and being like the suck pump who loves everything, it's the same thing. It's just a different side of the coin. Right. So it's kind of funny watching those two groups of people just yell at each other. And it's like you said, Red, like some of the people, I'm like, do you just get the show at all? And it just makes I lose faith in the world sometimes, but then I come back around and it's just comforting to know that like the Miniverse really is a microcosm of just like what's actually going on in the world. It gets frustrating. And like you said, Fetherston, I mean, for me, there's so many things to make fun of Mayo for. Mm-hmm. He's an asshole for making the call and just whining. Why can't you just listen to the show? Whatever. He's incapable of doing that. He hates the Miniverse for some reason, right. Like Kirk pointed out. But like, there's just no need to joke about his employer or be like, oh, if parents of your students, what if they found out that you were calling a podcast on the job? Like, where's the humor in that? Just be funny.
I know it's clearly a threat.
We're all petty.
You could easily make the joke. It doesn't have to be a threat. Like,
we're all petty, and we're there's all going to be asshole like revenge infighting. But like, can't that just be the only rule? Like, it's just really not that hard. Like, harass someone on Twitter, whatever. There's just no need for me to take it to that place, and it's just a lazy kind of humorless thing to do in my mind.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, you pretty much knew how the phone call was going to go when he calls up and he's like, who do you think you are? Like, what the fuck are you doing, Mayo? And then he was trying to get points across, which I'm sure in his head sounded great, except he was probably rattled then.
Right.
And then his points didn't come off at all.
Right. No.
And I mean, it's a losing argument anyway if you're going to call in and try and argue, because you're already going to lose because you're calling in. They control... When you can talk, when they hang up on you, you're not going to win. And I mean, his big dunk was that he called in and then he was rejecting his Mount Rushmore and he blocked Kirk. What the fuck are you doing? Just play it slow.
Well, that was going to be his joke. I thought he was going to leave it there. And then I think Kirk calling him fat, got under his skin. And then he just went off on a tangent where if he had just kept it funny and kept it light, I think it would have been totally fine. But he couldn't do that, man.
Yeah, or just like let it ride a week before you have to call in multiple times. Just count your blessings. Take rest on your laurels for once.
Maybe
all gas, no brakes. He's all gas, no brakes.
Can we pass a rundown rule? Maybe we can pass it off to the Miniverse. Like maybe there's only a once a week call rule for everybody. Like just once a week. Like
I don't know. It just.
Chris, the visiting nurse from Rhode Island.
No, because
once a week.
No,
that's it.
No.
Maybe once every 2 weeks.
You can't regulate. I'm a hands-off, laissez-faire.
That's true. I'm a libertarian. That's true.
You can't. You got to keep your hands off because
that's okay. All right,
the instant there's one rule, there's a million rules. Let's just make the one rule like no doxing or no veiled threats, and let's just everyone can be cunts within those parameters. If you ask me.
Well, not all of us can be cunts.
Yeah, well, not to the level cunts. You can. Yeah, and then also like Mayo, I even like try to go on Twitter and be like, oh yeah, I think it's fucked up that Fetherston did that. He just is addicted to taking it one step too far. And he has to go and like tag Kirk and be like, see, this is what I'm talking about. I'm like, well, Mayo, it's just as childish to like expect Kirk to be responsible for the actions of Minifans. Like this isn't a daycare center. These are real adults just online that happen to listen to a podcast. He's not responsible for regulating the Miniverse or controlling it. It's just a bunch of
it's the same thing if Ellie Schnitt is going to blame Kirk for what his fans say to her. it's the same principle. It's the same thing I would get into an argument with DEC about when DEC would get mad at, John from Scranton for Zonker. Like, you can't blame other people for the actions of other people. It can't be done. So, like, I understand what Mayo's saying, but, Featherston's just being an asshole, man. Like, it has nothing. Kirk has nothing to do with that. So,
the only thing I could think of when Mayo was talking was you saying, I talk, you talk. I talk, you talk.
just getting screamed at all the time.
God.
But you can't win. Like you said, like, Kirk is going to cut you off. He's got the bigger microphone.
Which he should have.
Oh, absolutely.
Mayo was making no sense, and Kirk gave him way longer.
Right.
And he probably should have. But then again, they left him on
time.
They left him on there so long that his points kept getting lost because he was rambling.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I like, my message to Mayo would be like, Mayo, I like you, whatever. Just stop dying on the most unnecessary hills that there are to die on.
It doesn't have to be every hill.
He dies on the strangest hills. I think he likes to complain about.
Mayo, I like you, but my God, when this just play cool, everything was fine. And then you had to call in today and ask Kirk Minahan, who do you think you are? How did you think that was going to end?
How did you think that was going to go?
I mean, goddamn, guys.
It's unbelievable.
I say it all the time. You just keep your head down. You got chop wood, carry water.
That's it. And that's easy. All. I've been taking your advice, Coach. And we've been good. Everything's been good so far. So hopefully, I think the rundown will live to see another week. I'm sure there's not many of us left on the YouTube channel. VD, any last thoughts before we get out of here for this week?
Yeah, I'm just excited for next week. Like, I'm always excited for the next week, but just having something new. Rob a fan, so it's going to suck not having Steve on, but honestly, he's the hardest working guy in the business. He deserves a week off to go celebrate his family, celebrate, the union of two souls. The Robinsons live on.
Yeah, that shotgun wedding.
They're spreading. If it is a shotgun wedding, I hope that maybe I can get to see the placenta art, the extracurricular placenta activity that goes on. That's a conversation I could have done without. But I just really am excited, like, having Carano in there. It'll be interesting with the callers. We got some good guests coming up, so I'm pumped.
I'm looking forward to that. Sheldon, any last thoughts?
There's no Al Robinson. Anyone who thinks that's a real name,
it's not his name.
You could hear the pause, and he almost just said his own name. I'm surprised he just didn't say Steve.
Well, in defense of Steve, like, I wouldn't put it. There's a lot of Minifans in Maine. They know there's a wedding in a certain area. I wouldn't put it past them to just show up at his wedding this weekend. So he should be as tactical as he can about that.
But no, I'm excited for the week. I think it's going to be interesting with Carano coming in. And if Mike's going to try and come back, I guess we'll get the update Monday.
Right.
The phone calls, I'm excited for the phone calls, except I'm over Pennsylvania live show pitching.
Yeah.
Fucking stop. I'm never going to Pennsylvania now. I fucking hate the state. I mean, I've heard like 20 pitches all week. I don't care. I fucking hate Pennsylvania. I mean, if it's not going to be at the place they wanted to right away, I don't give a shit about the Amish. Does nothing for me. But I've heard so many pitches about Pennsylvania. I'm never going there. Fuck that state. I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Right. And if Steve Robinson calls you and he's offering you money by having a show there, answer your goddamn phone, folks. I don't understand.
I don't understand how it'd be that hard to get a hold of these private businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
They could rent
Crazy.
We're going to bring in thousands of crazy Minifans who are going to hand you money. How about you answer your phone, please? So I don't want to hear any more about that either. I will say, Sheldon, it was great to have you. I hope maybe, if you can't ever do the show again, maybe we'll get Ziggy back in the mix. We can put him back in the rotation. But, this has been really great. I hope Ziggy's doing well at his journalist camp. I think he went to Big J journalist camp.
I don't. I hope he's failing.
To hopefully learn how to complete an investigation, I think is where he went. And he also had some mental health issues to work out. But we hope that Ziggy's doing well. But then also too, Ziggy, you're a dead man. That's the rundown. Thank you guys.